Hello again everyone, this is Zombie Kids Rule and I'm back with part 9 of the tutorial series for how I recreated the Dungeons & Dragons based game Eye of the Beholder character generation process in RPG Maker MZ. If you haven't watched the previous tutorials, you know, the demo of actually what it was, what it looks like, and if you haven't watched the previous tutorials, I encourage you to do so, simply because a lot of the concepts that are used later on, including this tutorial, have already been explained and in the previous ones, and I don't go into as much explanation. So the concepts are going to be repeated, and so I encourage you to watch those other tutorials. Whether you're going to recreate this entirely and then build off of it or modify it, or whether you're just watching it for ideas or pieces or whatever you're doing, or you're just interested. Again, I would recommend watching the other parts. So this part 9, is where we're almost to the end of the tutorial series. We're going to be able to modify the character. So we've created our character up to this point. They have all their attributes, they have their armor class stat, and their hit points and their levels. So if we click modify, the modify button is active, then we can select any of these and make changes. So when the attribute or whatever it is selected as red, you can increase or you can decrease, okay, up to a threshold. So for instance, Constitution, when I increase it, it can only go to 18. When I increase Dexterity, you're going to see that it changes armor class eventually, right? Okay, so anyway, you can increase, decrease within thresholds for any of these attributes, including the hit point up to the maximum that that particular character can have. So that's, and of course you click OK, you're back to the options of either re-rolling the character, modifying some more, changing the face, or keeping the character. So this tutorial is going to be about how the modify common events work, and then I'm probably the keep event too. All right, so where are we? So basically, back here, we're in our common events, and we're down to the point where we had shown our final buttons. These buttons, we talked about the reroll common event, we talked about the faces common event. So now we already did the character selection. So we're going to talk about modify. And when we do modify, that's going to end up calling these common events for the modifying the 6 attributes and the hit point modify. And it's also going to call these common events because this is how we're increasing or decreasing. And then the OK button saying we're done, okay? And then ultimately the keep when we want to keep the character, okay? So we back here to modify. This is a fairly short event, and just like many of the other previous parts, you'll notice that these can be repeated by which character we are dealing with. So we have to repeat 4 times some of the event that we're doing, so CC box 1 for character 1, CC box 2 for character 2. So here's where it starts off. This common event allows the player to modify the 6 attributes and hit points. So the first thing it does, erase pictures 27 through 34. Already talked about this script, so we're erasing the pictures that were previously being shown because we got to get rid of them, we got to clear them out. And as I have mentioned in previous tutorials, once you erase a picture, then if it was clickable, when you redraw that picture, if you will, if you reshow it, it won't be clickable anymore. So show buttons for the plus, minus, and OK. So again, these are just assets that I had. I had a blank button, so we show the blank button. Then we use the text picture plugin to show the plus sign on top of the blank button. And then we have to have show the blank picture to make blank image, basically to make the plus sign appear. And then we have to make that plus, that button clickable. So we're not making the plus clickable, we're making the button clickable. So we use the button picture plugin, picture 29, which is the button, and then it calls common event 417, which is the plus common event. So then we then show another blank button, use text picture to show the minus, and then use the button picture plugin to show to end up calling, make it clickable, and call event 418, the minus. Then we show another blank button, show the text picture plugin, show the text OK on top of it, and then use the button picture plugin to make that button clickable, and it calls common event 419, which is OK. So though this part is just showing the clickable buttons on the screen with the text on them and making them active. So then, turn off all modify attribute and HP switches. So I explained this again in previous parts. We are turning switches on to identify where we are or what we're doing. And so because we can click back and forth from these as we go, right, on the screen, then we need to be turning off the previous switches, that is the switch that is on. And rather than try to figure out which previous switch was on, I made the choice of just turning off all the applicable switches and then turning on, so turning on the switch that is appropriate. So first turn off all the switches related to modify attributes and hit points, and turn on the switch for modify strength, STR, because that is what is defaulted when you click the modify button. Strength, the attribute for strength, is already highlighted in red. So we're going to turn on the switch for modify strength. Then the rest of the event is, 4 different parts about, if you're working with character 1, character 2, character 3, character 4. So conditional branches to check which character is current and change the variable values for strength to red. So if CC box 1 switches on, so that was set when we clicked on the blank portrait for the first character, if CC1 strength is 18, and so this right here is actually, I already covered this in the section for the dice rolls, and it may have been recovered with reroll. So I'm not going to explain this again. It was already previously covered in a different tutorial. So if CC1 strength is equal to 18, then we have a variety of options. If the strength bonus switch is on, show this with the colored strength, turning the text for strength in color. Otherwise, if strength bonus is off, then show just the strength without the bonus, right, in color, slash C18, and then else for if the if strength is not 18, then that's this else branch. Show the strength variable in red, and the variable 754 is the variable for strength for the first character, and then this is just showing, right, the whatever text up here is applicable. So this line shows whichever one of these is applicable. And then the rest of that is exactly the same. So in this initial setup event, when you click the modify button, it is only turning the attribute for strength red, and all the rest of them are already white. So this is kind of where we start. So this box is a copy and paste from this box. You just have to change the switch to CC box 2, and then change this CC2 strength. Then you have to make sure you change your variable, because these variables are different if you watch the previous tutorials. So there's a different variable for if we're dealing for character 2, and so the variables change. And then the picture is going to stay the same, right? Picture 18, so that's going to stay the same. And then CC box 3 is just a copy and paste. Just change the switch, change this switch, change this variable, change the variable numbers in here, and then that's it. And then CC box 4, exactly same, copy and paste, change the switch, change the variable, change the variables in here, and then that's done. And then at the very end, right, we have to make all the other images clickable because they were not clickable before. So all the attributes on the screen, none of them were clickable until we select the modify option. So we're not going to make the strength clickable because we're already on strength and we're already ready to modify strength. So this is make attributes intelligence through charisma clickable, and it's using just the button picture event and the appropriate picture number for each of the attributes and the appropriate common events: 409, 410, 411, 412, 413. And then we also have to make the HP clickable, right? So that's another picture 25, and then the common event 415. All right, so this part is just making all of those other attributes and hit points clickable if we want to. Okay, so that's that event. That's the modify event. It's just getting it set up so we can now start clicking on any of the attributes we want, or we can immediately modify strength. So these 6 attributes are going to be incredibly similar, not only to each other, but also to things we've done that I covered in previous tutorials. So the concept of you click once, it turns the text red and turns all the other texts white, and then you click twice in a row and it activates it, right? So here we are on strength, and this event is created without the idea that we are already on strength, because we won't always be on strength. If I click on intelligence or wisdom or charisma and then I click back to strength, it has to do the same thing that these other attribute common events are doing. So what is the comment? Allows the player to modify strength. Again, turn off all the switches and then turn on the switch for strength to show that we're actually working with strength. Conditional branches to check which character is current and change the variable value for strength to red and all other variable values to white, which we've seen before in other tutorials. So if box CC1 is on, then we have the conditional branches to determine, do I need to show the bonus, do I not need to show the bonus, or if it's not 18 anyway, there is no possibility for a bonus. This is actually the exact same as it was in the modify, and it's a copy and paste, if I recall correctly, from like the dice roll section. So don't need to cover this again. If CC box 1 is on, then we have to do the conditional branches to make sure the strength is changed to red, and these are all just determining whether we show a bonus or not. Then we are showing the rest of the attributes in white. So again, we're repeating them, we're re-showing them, and just making sure that they are in the white color. Okay, that's the default color, so you don't have to, there's no /C change color. And because we're re-showing these, right, we will have to at the end make them all clickable again. But first, we're going to basically just repeat this 3 more times. So if CC box 2 is on, so copy and paste. If CC box 2 is on, so change the switch, change the variable. Again, these were changed, but you can copy and paste this from the modify if you wanted to, right? These are all going to stay the same. Okay, so you're still intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, they're all showing up on in the same spot. They're all showing up in white, so none of that has to change. Then you have to do the same thing for if CC box 3 switches on, right? Updating this variable, updating these variables, right? Whether you copy and paste and change, or whether you try to grab it from modify, whatever. And then these are all the same as they were in the 2 previous examples. And then you do the exact same thing for if CC box 4 is on. So you have 4 different parts of the common event, which are just basically saying, okay, whichever character I'm creating, let's make sure that the strength is in red, the rest of the attributes are in white. Okay, and then the end of the event is you make all of the buttons except strength, right? Make all of those attributes except strength clickable, and the HP. So these from here to here is just a copy and paste from the modify, right? I mean, it's just a copy and paste from that. So, ultimately, if you were to recreate this, you just try to save yourself as much time as possible and copy and paste from, what events you have made before. So that's strength, and you're going to see that the rest of these are set up almost identical. You're just going to make sure that for this one, intelligence is turning red, and therefore all the rest, including strength, are white. So here we are on the intelligence modify common event. Again, turn off all the switches, so this doesn't change. Turn on the intelligence switch, so if you copied and pasted from strength, you would just change the switch to intelligence. Again, if you're using comments, you'd update your comments. CC box 1 is on, that's the same, right? You're still checking to see if you need your strength bonus to be displayed, but now you're removing the change color. So these will be in white now. Then this list is exactly the same as strength, except now you're adding the change color to intelligence. Okay, and then you do the exact same thing for CC box 2 and CC box 3 and CC box 4. Just remember to actually, if you're copying and pasting from the strength one, you don't have to change any of these values because they're all the same. The only thing you would change in each copy and in paste in each section is changing intelligence to have a color and removing the color option from strength. You'd have to do that for all 4. And then this is all the same, except you have to, instead of making intelligence clickable, right? That was actually picture 19 and common event 409, right? You remove that and you put in the button picture event for strength. So essentially this was intelligence. You could just change it to change the picture number and change which common event it's calling. So it's calling strength instead of intelligence. The rest of them stay the same as they were from the strength modify common event. And the rest are going to be exactly the same. Wisdom, so if you're copying and pasting from intelligence, just change your switch. Modify wisdom is on. All of this stays the same now, right? Because strength is you're copying from intelligence, so strength was no longer in red, so you don't have to change anything there. Down here, you would just change, since you're copying intelligence, you would remove the red color from intelligence and add it to wisdom, right? /C and then in brackets 18 for red. Add it to wisdom. And then you do the same thing for the rest of them. All of this stays the same because you copied and pasted from intelligence. Just make sure you change the intelligence from red and change wisdom to red. Do the same thing for a CC box 3, CC box 4, and then when you get down here, you change the intelligence was not there, so you because you're copying and pasting from intelligence, so you change the wisdom button that was 410 and you convert it to 409 for intelligence modifier. Okay, and you're going to do that each time. You're just going to replace one clickable button with the one that was previously selected. Okay, and that's it. All right, now and I take something back. For these events, we don't click once and it shows red, and then we click twice and it does something, because what's happening here is you click once, it highlights it, and it makes it so that you can modify the attribute directly with the plus and minus buttons. Okay, so all these are doing is they are making sure that the appropriate switch is turned on for which attribute you're changing. They're turning off any other switch that was on before, and they are making the attribute red that you are able to modify through the plus and minus button. And they're basically making they're changing the colors, and they're identifying where you are, but it's the plus and minus that is actually going to be doing the changes. So dexterity, if you copy and paste from wisdom, just make those changes. Update your switch, and then down here, change wisdom from red, make dexterity red, and then do the exact same thing for all the other 3 options, right? CC box 2, CC box 3, CC box 4. And then down here, you would change your dexterity. I'm sorry, this is the same thing. Down here, you would change your dexterity button picture for common event 11, right? You see it's 410, 412. You would change the 411 back to 410, so wisdom is now clickable. Okay? And then the rest of them stayed the same. Constitution, exactly the same way. Change your switch. Change which one is red, the other one's white. All of your CC box 2, CC box 3, CC box 4 are exactly the same, just updating the color. And then down here, you just have to make sure that you change the Constitution modifier button picture back to dexterity. So dexterity can be clickable, and Constitution is not, because we're already on Constitution. And then charisma, finally, for wrapping these up. Again, you copied and pasted from Constitution, change your switch to modify charisma. Down here, all of these stayed the same, just change your charisma to red, right, and your Constitution to white, or basically they're all white, whichever one you were on. Do the same exact thing for CC box 2, CC box 3, CC box 4. And then down here, again, once again, make sure that you remove the button picture for charisma, and make sure that the button pictures for strength through Constitution are available, and your hit point stayed the same. And then finally, hit point is the only one. It's pretty much the same thing. You can copy and paste from one of the others. Make sure you change your switch. The strength stays the same, right? If you copied and pasted from one of the other ones, you make sure all of your attributes are in white, but your hit point is in red for your hit point attribute. And then do the same thing for CC2, CC3, CC4. Then when you get down to your buttons, just make sure that you have the only buttons you have showing or making things clickable are your strength through charisma, and there is no button picture to make HP clickable because you're already on it. Okay? So we clicked modify. This modify common event ran and got everything set up as if you were doing strength. Then each one of these, strength through charisma, it's very similar. It just sets it up where if I click on intelligence, then intelligence is shown in red. All the rest of everything else is shown in white. And the appropriate switch is turned on, right? Because the plus and minus are going to use the switches to figure out what variable to change. Right? That's why we have the switch that identifies which one of these is active. Okay? All right, so now we'll do plus, and then what you're going to notice with plus is once you do plus, you can copy and paste to minus and then just swap everything. So instead of increasing a variable, you decrease it. Right? And then you just have to watch your thresholds for how high you can go and how low you can go. So plus allows the player to increase the selected variable value by 1. We need conditional branches for each selectable character box. So we're going to start off with first character, CC box 1. So once we do CC box 1, then you can copy and paste and just change your switches, change your variables, and you'll have CC box 2, and then CC box 3, and CC box 4. So if CC box 1 switches on, conditional branches for all attributes and HP, that can be modified. So if strength, so underneath this conditional branch, a new one, if modify strength is on, So we have to check each one to see which one of these we're dealing with. If modify strength is on, then we have a reminder about our race variable numbers. We need a conditional branch to determine the max strength value or the default, right? So we have halflings have a -1 strength, so their max is 17. So we're going to go if, so again, this conditional branch is under this conditional branch, because we're all under this strength here. If race variable number equals 6, that's halfling, then your max attribute is 17. So set the variable for max attribute value to 17. Else, so otherwise, if the race variable number is not 6, we're not dealing with a halfling, then we're going to set the control variable max attribute variable to 18, and we're going to set the strength bonus max variable to 100. Now we don't know if that's applicable or not, but we're just setting our highest threshold, right? The highest is an 18, and the because none of these things have a +1 strength. So the highest is 18, and the highest max strength bonus would be a 100. So then we have to keep going with our conditionals. So now we've got the race, right? We know what our max attributes are, and you notice that this conditional branch is not underneath this, meaning it's not indented. It's not, these conditional branches are only happening if, right, this is equal to 6. This conditional branch and this conditional branch are at the same level, okay? So they're not nested. This is not nested under this. Okay, so now we're going to say, well, now we have to figure out, we're going to have to do strength as far as whether we're changing just the attribute number or the bonus. So if CC1 strength, right, that's the variable, is equal to max attribute value, which we set up here. So what this is saying is if the variable for the first character's strength is equal to 18, so it's already equal to 18, and then another conditional branch, if strength bonus is on, so now we know that there should be an additional variable value from 1 to 100, and then another nested conditional branch if CC1 strength bonus is equal to the strength bonus max, which is 100. So what these three things are saying is if your strength for your character is already at the max, 18, and if there's a strength bonus on, because you're a fighter type class, and if your strength bonus is already at the strength bonus maximum, meaning 100, then you can't go any higher. So it's just going to play that buzzer sound. You can't do it. Else, otherwise, it's going to play the cursor sound of like beep, and because it's going up, it's going to change the variable CC1 strength bonus by 1. So it's increasing your strength bonus by 1. We don't have to change the strength attribute because it's already 18. So we're increasing just the bonus by 1. Then we've got to do another check underneath that else. If CC1 strength bonus is less than 100, and if CC1 strength bonus is greater than 9, then we have to update the variable for the bonus display to just the value of the strength bonus. I actually talked about this already when we in another part of the tutorial, because we had to do this the first time that we were rolling attributes. Okay, so then we're down here again, a series of conditional branches under this else. If CC1 strength bonus is less than 10, then we have to, I explained this already, we have to pad the bonus with a 0. So basically, if it's a 1, it's a 0, 1. If it's a 2, it's a 0, 2. If it's a 3, it's a 0, 3. That's what this does. So that when we display it, this variable is going to have a 0 in front of the number. So 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. And then if if the CC1 strength bonus is greater than 99, then you are changing it to double zeros, right? Because it doesn't show 100, it actually shows 00 in the old D&D. So that's what this through here is doing, and I already had a tutorial part that actually talked about that. So that's just setting up the variable for that we're going to use to show the strength bonus and make sure it displays correctly. Okay. So then this is just the using the text picture to in red, because if we're modifying strength, it's in red. We're showing it appropriately because we updated it. Since we updated the information, we have to show it again to make it show on the screen, and we have to show the picture. Now here's one of our other else branches. Well, which one does this belong to? Because we're playing a buzzer. Well, this one would belong to the if strength bonus is off, right? So let's see. There's else. So if we're here, here's our else, right? So if, and why does it work this way? Remember, this is saying if we're already at the max attribute, 18. If the strength bonus is on, do this. If the strength bonus is off, that means the character can only go as high as 18. So this else branch is basically if the strength bonus is off, then play the buzzer sound and don't do anything else. And then this else branch is the last one. It actually belongs to this conditional branch, right? And then it's saying if CC1 strength is equal to the max attribute value, this else is saying it's not, this else is saying it's not equal to the max. So it's a 17, a 16, a 15, a 14, whatever. So it plays the cursor to go beep, and then it updates the variable, right? So your 16 becomes a 17, your 17 becomes an 18, whatever. And then check to see if strength has reached 18 and if the strength bonus is applicable. So we have the possibility here. This just becomes a little complicated. We have to account for the possibility that when we first started our check, the max attribute, the actual strength was 17. So it's a 17. If CC1 strength is equal to max value, well, that's not true. It's a 17. So it goes down here to the else branch. It increases it by 1. So now it's an 18. And if it's an 18, then it might need a strength bonus depending on the character class. So we have to figure that out. So underneath this else branch, if CC1 strength is 18, right? And if the strength bonus is on, then we're going to do the strength bonus by 1, right? Because this just turned 18. The strength bonus is going to be 0, right? So we're going to this is not increasing it by 1. It's setting it to 1. So because remember, it didn't have a value before, or it shouldn't have a value before. So we went from, it was a 17, we increased it to 1 by 1, that's 18. So now if it's a fighter type, so that means the strength bonus is on, we're going to set the variable for strength bonus, CC1 strength bonus, to 1. Okay, because didn't have a value before. Then we're going to, because it's a 1, we're going to use that script, right, to make the CC1 bonus display to pad it with a 0. So instead of 1, it's 0, 1. Then we're going to basically use the text picture to show the attribute value plus the bonus on the screen. And then this else branch is basically if the strength bonus is off, right? If the strength bonus is off. So it's not a fighter type. And in which case, it's just going to show the base value of the strength attribute. Okay? And then this else branch is, again, accommodating the fact that this up here in this else branch, it might not be turning 18, right? It might have been a 14. So it was a 14. We added 1. It's a 15. So it's not 18. So this isn't going to run. But this has an else branch. So this else is saying if it's not an 18 now, right? If when we added the 1 to the strength, it's not an 18, then just show the attribute in red. Show the strength attribute in red on the screen. Okay, so that is by far the most complicated part of the plus and the minus, is accounting for this idea that you have characters with a strength bonus, and you have to accommodate all the two different maxes, right? You have to accommodate increasing the attribute value itself, right, and the possibility of the strength bonus attribute. Okay, and we're so yes, so that's, yes, we did that. And remember, we already accommodated up here. We set the strength bonus max to 100. So we are checking to make sure that we are not increasing the strength bonus beyond 100. Okay, so all of this is basically making it so you can increase the strength to 18 if it's a non-fighter type, or you can increase it to 18,100 if it's a fighter type. That's what this whole thing is doing. Now the rest of these become easier. If we're doing intelligence, so if modify intelligence switches on, we still have our race variable numbers because we have modifications based on race. So this is basically reminding us that a gnome, which is a race variable number of 5, the intelligence is actually +1, so it's a max of 19. So similar to the strength, if race variable number is a 5 for gnome, then set the max attribute value to 19, and we can reuse this variable because we're only doing one at a time. We're only changing one at a time, so we can reuse this same max attribute value. So it's set to 19. Otherwise, else, if it's not a gnome, then the max value is 18. So then we just do a much simpler check. It's just this little tiny check here. It's so much easier. If CC1 intelligence is already equal to the max attribute value, either 19 or 18, depending on the race, then if it's already at the max, play the buzzer and don't do anything else. Otherwise, else, if it's not at the max attribute value, play the little cursor click, increase the variable for intelligence by 1, then update the picture on the screen. Right? Update your intelligence value that you increased and show it on the screen. Really simple. And the rest of them are similar. So if modify wisdom switches on, this is, again, reminding of us of any wisdom bonuses or penalties. Gnomes have a penalty, so it's max of 17. Set your maxes. If the race variable number is a 5 for gnome, set it to 17. Otherwise, set the max attribute value to 18. Then check. If CC1 wisdom is already at the max attribute value, play the buzzer, don't do anything else. Otherwise, if it's not, play the cursor click, increase wisdom by 1, and then update the picture on the screen. Okay, dexterity, same thing. If modify dexterity switches on, elves get a +1, so it's 19. Halflings get a +1, so it's 19. If race variable number is equal to 2, set that max attribute value to 19. If it's 6, set it to 19. And then otherwise, yeah. So basically what this is saying is if it's a 2, set it to 19. If it's not a 2, if it's 6, set it to 19. Well, if it's not a 6, then it's automatically going to do this, right? So if it's a 2, it'll run this. If it's a 6, it'll run this. If it's neither of those, it will run this by default, and that is setting this to 18. But in order to do that, in order to not have this reset it, we are jumping to label dex max done. So dexterity max done. So if it's a 2, if the race variable is 2 for elf, we set the max attribute value to 19 and then jump to label dex max done, so it skips over this and it skips over this and it jumps down here. Or if the race variable number is 6, we set our max value to 19 and then again jump to label so that we can skip over this. Okay, otherwise, if it's neither one of these, set the max attribute value to 18. And then this conditional branch is similar, but now we have to accommodate if there's a change to the AC. Right? Because remember, dexterity changes AC. So if CC1 dexterity is already at the max attribute value, play the buzzer, don't do anything else. Else, otherwise, play the cursor click, update the dexterity variable by 1, re-show the new variable value on the screen, then update and display the armor class value. So we now have a new dexterity value. So if CC1 dexterity is greater than 17, then the variable for AC for character 1 is going to be a 6. And this is a copy and paste from when we did the rolling the attributes. If it's a 17, then AC is 7. If it's a 16, AC is 8. If it's a 15, AC is 9. If it's less than 15, AC is 10. And then once we have, basically updated our variable value, right, our AC variable, if it's needed to be updated, once we've checked to do that, then we re-show the value of the AC on the screen. So we re-show it. And we're re-showing it even if this didn't change, because it's just easier to do that. It's not hurting anything to re-show it. And we're not making anything clickable because, again, we do that through the other options up here, on the screen itself. So we don't have to make any of these clickable. So then we do Constitution, which is going to be similar to Dexterity because we have a Constitution modifier. So we do have our race variable numbers. We have elves have a -1 Constitution, so a max of 17. Dwarves have a +1 Constitution, a max of 19. So very similar to Dexterity. If the race variable number is 2, set the max attribute value to 17, jump to label con max done, which is down here. If it's a 4, then set the value to 19, jump to label con max. If it's neither of these, then set the max attribute value to 18. Then we're going to do our check. If CC1 con is at the max attribute value already, so if it's whatever the max is, play the buzzer, don't do anything else. Otherwise, play the cursor click, increase Constitution by 1, update the display on the screen, and then we have to check, just like we did Dexterity, Constitution affects the Constitution modifier for hit points. So we have to go through these series of conditional branches, which were talked about in dice rolling, I believe. So if the Constitution is 19, it's a 5, 18, 4, 17, 3, 16, 2, 15, 1. If it's less than 15 but greater or equal to 7, it's no Constitution modifier. If it's less than 7 and also less than 4, okay, so actually that means it's a 3, then it's a -2. Otherwise, that means it's a 4 to 6, it's a -1. Okay, so that's your Constitution modifier. And you don't have to update anything because changing the Constitution modifier doesn't automatically change the hit points. Okay, it doesn't automatically change the hit points. So let's see. Yeah, so we're good there. And then we're going to update the hit points later. So if Charisma, if modified Charisma is on, this is the same. We have our our reminder that dwarves have a -1 Charisma, max of 17. Do our max attribute value setting it. So if the race variable is 4 for dwarf, set the max attribute value to 17. Otherwise, for everybody else, set it to 18. Then do the very simple charisma check. If CC1 charisma is already at the max attribute value, play the buzzer, don't do anything else. Otherwise, play the cursor click, increase the variable by 1, re-show the updated charisma value on the screen. Then, if modify HP is on, we have a little bit more that we have to do, because we're going to have to do it by class. And you can take this, you can take a lot of this information from the dice roll, right? The dice roll common event. So we're going to have conditional branches to calculate max HP based on character class. Calculate max HP by adding hit dice max plus con modifier multiplied by 3 if it's a regular character. That actually is off. There's if it's a thief, it's multiplied by 4. If it's multiclass, it's not multiplied by 3. For multiclass characters, the con modifier is only applied when all classes are at or beyond the same level. So an example, a level 1, 2, and 1, so a level 1 fighter, level 2 mage, level 1 cleric, however that would work, is one constitution modifier. So they're all level 1. So they get 1 constitution modifier. If it's level 2, 3, and 2, then they're all at least level 2. They get 2 constitution modifiers. That's just the way I did it. For multi-class characters, HP is calculated by dividing the total HP of all hit dice by the number of classes and rounding up. So I did round up, made sure to do that. And then, example, cleric, fighter cleric mage is a die 10, a die 8, a die 4. Right? You add those together first, then you divide by 3. Okay? So remember, I mentioned this before. Yeah. So, I wonder if I made a mistake there. Let's see. Oh, okay. Wait a second. Yeah, I see what I was doing. Okay. So. Let me just think about this for a second. This is your constitution modifier. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I was trying to think of PEMDAS, right? Because in mathematical equations, which applies to what we're doing, it's parentheses, so it does whatever's in parentheses, right? Exponents, PEM, multiplication, division, PEMDAS, addition, subtraction. So if you want like in this example here, if you wanted the addition to be done first, you would have to put parentheses, do your addition, and then divide it by 3. Okay. Otherwise, without the parentheses, it would be 4 divided by 3, and then it would add the 10 and the 8. So you have to be careful if you're doing the mathematicals. But this works fine, because if fighter has, from the previous tutorial parts that I did, I explained, so that you didn't have to go look it up if you wanted to recreate this, I explained what hit dice each class had and how many classes they got to begin, how many levels they got to begin with. So a fighter, a straight fighter starts at level 3 with a die 10 hit dice. So that's 30, max of 30, plus the constitution modifier times 3, because they're level 3. So there's no problem here, whether it multiplies the constitution modifier first or whether it does it after. You do want it to do it first, and that's what it's doing, right? So yeah, that's very important. Actually, you wouldn't want to do the addition first, because then it would be 30 plus your constitution modifier times 3, and that would be massive. So what it's doing is it's taking your constitution modifier, this is the variable, say it's a plus 2, multiplying it by 3, so now it's plus 6, and adding it to the max possible without the constitution modifier, which is 30. So in that instance, it would be a max of 36. And you notice the variable is HP max value. So then the rest of these are the same. You just have to, look at you have to change it based on the rules behind the class. So a paladin is exactly the same as fighter. It's die 10, 3 levels, so die 10 times 3. Here's the Constitution modifier times 3. Ranger is the same. They have a die 10 hit dice. So 30, Constitution modifier times 3, right? And you add them together. Cleric is a die 8 for hit dice. So 3 times 8 is 24. And again, the Constitution modifier times 3 is not changing. Mage is a die 4. So 3 times 4 for a level 3 character is 12, plus your Constitution modifier. A thief actually gets 4 levels, and they are a die 6. So 6 times 4 is 24, and we're multiplying our Constitution modifier by 4. A fighter cleric. Now, this is where I just did my mental math, so to make it easier. A fighter cleric has a die 10 and a die 8. And then what you have to do is you have to go back and look. I had to go back and look and see how many levels did they get for each class. A fighter is for a fighter cleric, they get 2 levels of fighter, 2 levels of cleric. So that is in fact 10 and 8, 18 times 2, right? But then it's got to be divided by the number of classes. So it comes out to be 18 max. So you can have 10 and 10 is 20, 8 and 8 is 16, so that's 26, and you divide it by 2, so that's 18. And then you do your Constitution modifier times 2 because they're both level 2. So you're just going to have to trust me. I'm not going to do the public math on all of these. But that's what I did. I went and I said, okay, how many levels do they get? How many hit dice do they get? Add up all the possible, divide it by the number of classes, and that comes out to their maximum that they can have without the Constitution modifier. So a fighter mage can have a maximum of a natural 14 hit point without their Constitution modifier. A fighter thief can have a maximum of 19 without their Constitution modifier. Okay, and then a fighter cleric mage can have a max of 11, right? And then without their Constitution modifier. And you notice now there's no multiplication because a fighter cleric mage is it's like 1, 2, 1 for levels. So they're all just level 1. So they only get 1 Constitution modifier, right? That's all they get. Fighter Mage Thief, maximum possible hit points is 9, and then they get 1 Constitution modifier. Cleric Ranger, maximum is 18, and they basically get 2 Constitution modifiers. Cleric Mage, maximum is 12, and then 2 Constitution modifiers. Cleric Thief is 17, and then 2 Constitution modifiers. And finally, Mage Thief is 13 with 2 Constitution modifiers. So that you're using your conditional branches to say, if the fighter switches on, so we're dealing with a fighter, here's my max HP max value, right? And then same conditional branches for all the classes to figure out who you're dealing with. Then, okay, so once we've done that, we figured out the max HP value based on the class. Check to see if character HP is already at the max hit point value. If yes, play buzzer. If no, then increase the HP by 1 and update the displayed value. So if CC 1 HP is already it's equal to the HP max value, play the buzzer, don't do anything else. Otherwise, play the cursor click, increase CC 1 HP by 1, update the value of the variable on the screen. Okay? And all of that is for CC box 1 if you're creating the first character. Then you start on character CC box 2. So you can copy and paste this entire section, paste it for CC box 2, and then I'm just going to go through once what you have to change. You have to update your switch here. CC box 2 switches on. This stays the same, right? Still modify strength. All of this stays the same. all of this stays the same. You'd have to update your variable if CC2 strength, right? But then this variable stays the same. Strength bonus switch stays the same. CC2 strength bonus, right? That's a variable. If that's CC2, you have to update this one, but the strength bonus max, that stays the same. You have to make sure you change this variable, CC2 strength bonus, and then you got to change your conditional branches if CC2 strength bonus, if CC2 strength bonus, if CC2 bonus display, CC2 strength bonus. This is where you can make a mistake because it's real easy to like change this, change this, change this, change the front of this, and then forget to change this. It's very, very easy to do. I know I did it. So you'd have to change this one. You have to change this, and then you have to make sure you change your variable. Change this, and again, of course, you're changing this because you have different variables for CC2. Buzzer is the same. Then, of course, you got to change this variable. Then you got to change this switch, and again, repeated. Change this variable, change this variable, change this variable, change your variables in here, change your variable in here. Then you get down here. All of this stays the same. All of this stays the same. Then you just have to do the easy updates. If CC2 intelligence, right, you got to change this variable. That stays the same. Update this variable. Update this variable. Then wisdom, right? That modify wisdom. That's not changing. This isn't changing. Change this one, this variable. If CC2 wisdom, this variable stays the same. Update this variable, and then it's done. Dexterity, all this stays the same. This stays the same. All this stays the same. All this stays the same. Right? Because you're still dealing with max attribute value. Update this to CC2 dexterity variable. Update this variable. Update this variable. And then, of course, all of these have to be updated. Right? If CC2 dexterity variable, and then this also has to change because it's CC2 AC, not CC1 AC, CC2 AC. So you have to update all these, and of course update your variable for AC because it's different for CC1, CC2, CC3, CC4. Constitution, all this stays the same. The race stuff stays the same. All this stays the same. Change your variable for Constitution to CC2. Again, change your variable, update your variables, change your variable, change. Now you notice this doesn't change. So this is just a general Constitution modifier. So it's not CC1, CC2, CC3. So just change the variable here, 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 these two, right? Okay, then charisma, all this stays the same. Then you update your variable here, update your variable here and here, and then you get down to HP. This stays the same. All of these stay the same, right? These aren't being changed. They're not CC1, CC2 dependent, so all of these stay the same. Then you have to update your variable here, update your variable, and then you're into CC box 3. So you have to make those same updates in CC box 3 and CC box 4 conditional branch sets, just like we showed in other tutorials, okay? So it's pretty lengthy, but you have to make sure you're doing the same thing regardless of which character you're on for creating a character. So we're going to go all the way down, and we're going to see where we are. So this is HP now, so we're into CC box 4, and then we're going to go all the way down. We're updating our variables and switches the way we're supposed to. And we're down in Constitution, now we're down in Charisma, now we're down in HP, and at the very end, that's it. So once you do the CC1 box section, you can copy and paste it, and then 3 times, or you can copy and paste it once, change it all to CC2, then copy and paste CC2, and then change it all to CC3, and then copy and paste CC3, and then change it all to CC4. Whatever, however you want to do it, whatever's most convenient for you. That is the common event for plus, for adding 1 to your attributes or your hit points at a time. Minus is exactly the opposite. So it's going to be, you can basically copy and paste plus for minus, and then you just got to go through and change everything. Allows the player to decrease the selected variable by 1. Developer decision. Minimum of all 6 attributes is 3. So Eye of the Beholder didn't do that. I really didn't know what they used for minimum attributes. I couldn't figure it out. There was no documentation on it. So I just arbitrarily, for this testing purposes, I set them all to the minimum of 3. And when I make my own game, I'll figure out what is most reasonable for my game. So we have, again, start off CC box 1, so we wouldn't have to change that. Modify strength, don't have to change that. Racial variables, right? We don't have to change this, right? And then, let's see, we are in the minuses, right? So let's see, if variable, right, we have we're dealing with the max attributes here. If CC1 strength is equal to the max attribute value, if CC bonus is on, then, so basically this is saying it's at the top, right? It's at the very highest. Play the cursor, because we're going to allow you're going to allow the player to decrease it. Decrease the strength bonus by 1, right? Because the strength bonus is on here, so we're going to decrease the strength bonus by 1. And then we have to accommodate, okay, what happens if the strength bonus was only a 1 to begin with? So if CC1 strength bonus is 0 now, right, we are going to actually change the attribute itself from an 18. We're going to subtract 1 from it, so it's going to automatically become a 17. And then we're going to show the updated value. Okay, so then else, right? So if strength bonus is on, right? Do this. Else, then it's the else is here. The else is here. So if the strength bonus is on, start doing this. And then it does another nested conditional branch check. If the strength bonus is 0, then subtract 1 from it. Subtract 1 from the actual strength itself, so go from 18 to 17, show it. Otherwise, it's not 0, right? Then we have to do the similar thing we did before to make sure we can display it properly. If the actual CC1 strength bonus is less than 100 but greater than 9, then just update the bonus display. If it's less than 10, then we have to pad the number, right? Already showed that. And then it's not going to be 100 because we're decreasing, right? So it can't possibly be a 100 because we're decreasing. So just make sure you update your variable on the screen, right? Okay. So then else, right, meaning that this else branch is here, meaning that if the strength bonus is off, then play the cursor successfully, subtract the strength attribute by 1, and update it on the screen. And then this else branch is actually for this, right? If CC1 strength is at the max attribute, no, it's not. Let's say it's a 16 instead. So then down here, it's gonna, before we can lower it, we have to make sure that it's not already at its lowest possible thing. So here, it's not at the maximum. If CC1 strength is already a 3, play the buzzer and say, no, you can't do that, and don't do anything else. Otherwise, if it's not the lowest, which is a 3, play the successful cursor, reduce it by 1, update it on the screen. Okay, again, strength is the hardest because you have to accommodate for the strength bonus. Okay, so then the rest of them are easier, I should say. If modify intelligence switches on, then it's just going to do a simple check. If CC1 intelligence is already 3, then play the buzzer, don't let them reduce it. Otherwise, play the successful cursor, reduce it by 1, update it on the screen. Okay? Same thing for wisdom. If modify wisdom switches on, if CC1 wisdom is already a 3, play the buzzer. Otherwise, play the successful cursor, decrease it by 1, show it on the screen. Dexterity, if the dexterity switch is on, if CC1 dexterity is 3, play the buzzer. Otherwise, play the cursor, then decrease it by 1, and then just like with the plus, we have to update our AC based on the dexterity. So we're going to show the new dexterity on the screen. Then we're going to do our series of conditional branch checks, and these can be copied. Well, these were already copy and pasted if you copied and pasted plus to minus, so none of these actually have to change. And actually, these things, I didn't think to mention it, but these things aren't changing either, right? You're just changing your plus to a minus, right? So anywhere under the plus where it says you add 1, you're just changing those to subtract 1. But the displaying the pictures is actually the same. You don't have to update those from the copy and paste from the plus. So once you've done all your conditional branches to make sure your AC, this stays the same as it was from copied and pasted from the plus, because you're just showing the updated information on the screen. Constitution, right? This stays the same from the plus. This, if CC1 Constitution, you have to change that to a 3. Play the buzzer. Otherwise, play the cursor. Make sure you're subtracting 1 from Constitution. This would stay the same from plus because you're just updating the information on the screen. All of this would stay the same from the plus option, right? Because you're just updating the con modifier variable. All of that stays the same from the plus. All of this would stay the same from the plus because again you're establishing the HP for the different classes. So all of this stays the same. Then we would look here and say if CC1 HP is greater than max HP value, right? So because remember that it's possible that we could be changing, let's see, the way we do this, if we were, one of the things that you can do is when you modify the hit points, right, you can increase it up to the maximum value for that character in class. But if you then change something like your Constitution modifier, then that can change what the maximum is. So in theory, what this is doing is it's accommodating if the current CC1 HP that has been saved is greater than the possible HP max value because you changed, for instance, charisma. I mean, I'm sorry, not charisma, Constitution. So if CC1 HP is in fact greater than the HP max value that's supposed to be possible, then set the CC1 HP to the HP max value that you determined up here. Okay, so you set it to it and then update it, display it, and also make it clickable because you, when we're doing this here, we are actually not changing, right? Let's see, let's go up here. We are under, let me just double check something. Yeah, so we are still under the modify Constitution here. So if I click here to show everything that is under this conditional branch, and I scroll back down, you're going to notice that setting the max HP value and doing all these checks about resetting the hit point, that's all underneath the conditional branch if we are modifying the Constitution. Okay, so we start modifying the Constitution, we change our Constitution modifier, possibly. So if we do that, we got to say, okay, what are our max HP values again? We got to reset, make sure that's current, and then we have to check, well, what is our current CC1 HP? If it's more than what it's supposed to be, then set it to the max possible value, right? And then update it and make it clickable, because we're modifying constitution here. So we still want to be able to click on HP to modify that. The else is basically saying if CC1 HP is not greater than HP max value. So if it's not greater than HP max value, then what we're going to do is we're just going to update the display, update what the value of the HP is, and make it clickable again. Okay, so that's what that's doing. So that one was a little bit, constitution was a little bit more complicated, because we had to accommodate for if we change the constitution modifier, and that changes the maximum amount of hit points that should be allowed for that particular class, right? So then modify charisma is very similar to the other easy ones, except I remember this, I had to add this. Under modify charisma, if paladin switches on, if we're making a paladin, then their constitution is 17. They can't have anything less than a 17. So we got to do a check here. If paladin is on, then also check if CC1 charisma is 17, then play the buzzer. Otherwise, if it's not a 17, then, meaning it would only be an 18, I believe, yeah, because humans don't have any bonuses, so it would be an 18, then play the successful cursor, subtract 1 from the charisma, which basically it'll go from an 18 to a 17, and then update it on the screen. Okay? Else, otherwise, that means the paladin switch is not on, right? So it's anybody else, it's any other class. Then this is the normal thing we were doing in some of these easier ones. If CC1 charisma is already a 3, play the buzzer. Otherwise, play the cursor, decrease the charisma by 1, update the information on the screen. And then HP is you're going to see is similar to other sections that you could copy and paste from. But actually, I'm sorry, you already copied and pasted from the plus, right? So you don't have to, you may not have to, anyway. If it's already here, then great. If it's not, right, this is min value, you may have to add it, right? You may have to add it in. So just be aware that this would not have been in the plus option, because now we're dealing with minimum values. So if modify HP is on, let's see. Developer decision. Minimum HP will be a 2, 3, or a 4. It depends on the character classes. Characters always get a minimum of 1 HP per level, even if the constitution modifier is negative. Okay, sorry, I had to pause there for a second. So I just made a decision that said, no matter what, even if you have a really, really low constitution modifier, if you have a really low constitution, so you have a negative constitution modifier, I made the decision that a character will never have less than 1 HP per level. So if you're a thief, you have 4 levels, you'd have a minimum of 4. If you're one of the other single class characters, you'd have 3 levels, you'd have a minimum of a 3. And if you have a multi-class character that only has 2 levels, right, that, a 2 and a 2, then you'd have a minimum of a 2. All right, so that was just a decision I made. So I set all of these you have these conditional switches. If the fighter switch is on, then the minimum value is a 3. And again, I just base these based on the class themselves. If the paladin switch is on, it's a minimum value of 3. Ranger 3, cleric 3, mage 3, thief 4, fighter cleric 2, fighter mage 2, fighter thief 3, fighter cleric mage 2. Fighter mage thief 2, cleric ranger 2, cleric mage 2, cleric thief 3, mage thief 3. Basically, the concept is you're just setting a minimum value that it can't go below, right? That's what you're setting here so that you know how far the player can modify. You could do anything you wanted differently. If you wanted them to never have less than 6, you could do that. So then we have our simple check. If CC1HP is equal to the minimum value that was determined up here, play the buzzer. Otherwise, play the successful cursor, decrease CC1HP by 1, and then update the screen. Okay? And so then the rest of the event is just doing the CC box 2, CC box 3, and CC box 4. So it is a lot of changes. It really is. And then this one was difficult because well, I don't want to say difficult, but there was a lot of things. I copied and pasted from the plus. So there were quite a few things that I had to change in the CC1 box section. Those all have to be repeated in CC box 2. Right? So just to highlight for this one time, I won't do it for box 3 and box 4, but some of the things that were unique to the minus, right, were things like, let's see, all this is the same. We had to significantly change this, right? So I don't know what you want to do there. You could go up to CC box 1 and copy and paste this section and then change all the CC2 references. Don't know, but there was quite a few changes in here because we had to accommodate for the minimum strength bonus and all that sort of thing. And then these aren't bad, right? You just had to make sure that you were addressing your minimum and subtracting instead of adding, right? So wisdom wouldn't be too bad. Dexterity, again, we have to accommodate for the change in armor class, right? Constitution, this one was where we had to accommodate for if we're exceeding the max HP, right? And then for, let's see, charisma, we had to accommodate for the paladin, which we didn't have to do on the plus, right? So that whole paladin thing was different. And let's see, and then of course down in Constitution, right? We had to deal with this was in Constitution up here above, and then in HP we had to deal with the minimum values. We had to establish the minimum values that we wouldn't have done in the plus, and then we get into box 3. So if you successfully update CC box 1, that entire section, you just have to make the same changes for CC box 2, CC box 3, and CC box 4. Okay, and we go all the way to the bottom, and that is it. So again, you do CC box 1, and then you have your CC box 2 updates, CC box 3 updates, CC box 4 updates, and then you're done with the minus. Okay. So that's how I did the plus and the minus, essentially making it so that when you click the plus, it's making sure that you can't exceed the maximum value for any of the attributes. It's taking into account the race, changes, whether it's a bonus or a penalty, and taking into account the strength bonus. So it's taking into all into account, and then the minus is again setting the bottom parameters, the bottom threshold, making sure they can't go below, and that sort of thing. All right, so now only 2 more things for this tutorial. The OK button. What is the OK button doing? Well, the OK button, it's basically saying I'm done modifying. I'm done modifying. I'm not increasing, decreasing anything more. I'm satisfied. I'm clicking OK so I can get out of that. So we have to go back to the screen where we have the 4 choices of reroll, modify, faces, and keep. So if you click the OK button, allows the player to finish modifying the current character, erase the pictures 29 through 34, which is the those modify buttons, the plus, the minus, and the OK button. So erase those. Conditional branches to show the attributes of the current character. So we have our CC box 1, right? So we're going to have a whole big section for CC box 1. And we're going to make sure this is going to be very similar to when we were setting up the characters in a previous tutorial. So we're going to make sure that we display the race. We're going to display the class. Okay, so the race and the class. And then we're going to display all our attributes. So all of these are essentially copied and pasted from other events where we had to show the attributes for whether it's be CC1, CC2, CC3. So we're showing our strength, and if there's a strength bonus, right, we're showing that. We're showing all of our other attributes plus armor class plus hit points. None of them are in red because they're all in white now. Then we covered this before. This is when there's a multi-class and you have to show more than one level. So that's what this part is doing. So this is literally a copy and paste from one of the previous events to make sure that you're showing the levels for whether it's a 2-level character, 2-class character, or a 3-class character. That's what this is doing. And then you get into CC Box 2. So you do the same thing for CC Box 2. And you just, again, I think what I did is I copied and pasted from one of the other events each time. So I copied and pasted the CC1 information, and then I copied and pasted the CC2 information. And again, just looking for the one that, where do I display the race and the class and all the attributes, right? And the multi-class information. So literally copied and pasting from other events. Do the same thing for CC Box 3, then do the same thing for CC Box 4. And then the last thing it does is it calls the common event final buttons, which we already talked about. Final buttons just shows on the screen that reroll, modify, faces, and keep options. So basically what this event is doing is when you click the OK button on the screen, right? So when you click the OK button on the screen, it removes the plus, the minus, and the OK button, and then it re-shows the information that was previously on the screen that was changed to be selectable, right? So it re-shows the race and the class and all the attributes, the AC, the HP, and it just re-shows them based on which character we're creating. So that's what the OK button does. And then as a last thing, it calls the common event for final buttons, so it can re-show those 4 button options. We already went over reroll. We just got done going over modify. We already went over faces. So the last option is keep. And this isn't terrible. This isn't really terrible. There's just, you have to do one extra thing, which is making sure that you're showing the portrait of the character that you've made in the other portion of the screen, right? There was 4 blank portraits on the screen, and then your character creation part when you're actually in the game. And so you have to update your completed character's portrait to the blank portrait that you're working with. So when you click the keep button, you're done with the character. Common event called when the player chooses to keep the character that was created. Updates the character portrait in the appropriate box and allows the player to name the character. Conditional branches to check which character is being completed. So, if first party member, so if CC Box 1 is on, turn off the switch to deactivate the map parallel event to make the selected box flash. We talked about that a long time ago. So it's basically turning off the switch to turn off this map event so that the selected box is no longer flashing. So we turn off that switch. CC Box highlight is off. Erase the applicable picture of the green colored border. So erase picture 4, that was the green colored border around the blank portrait box. Show the applicable portrait in the applicable box. So we're using a script. I already highlighted how these scripts work, so we're going to use the script for show picture. This is the picture number, and we're using a variable for the picture ID. And that's going to, basically, this is going to show the portrait that was selected. We went over how to select portraits in a previous tutorial. That's going to show the portrait over on the left-hand side of the screen. So once the portrait is shown over there, it's going to call the common event name input. Pretty sure I covered that too. In fact, I'm pretty sure I did. I'll have to double check. I'm not going to cover it in this tutorial. If I didn't cover it, I will do it in the next part. So it calls a common event name input. Turn on applicable switch to show the character is complete. So we have to be able to know how many characters we've successfully completed. So we have switches for the 4. So CC1 complete switch is on. Turn off the applicable switch for that box. So CC1 box is off because we're not working with CC1 box anymore. We're not working with that, so we're turning it off. Conditional branch to check if party member is evil. If yes, then turn evil party member switch on, because as I highlighted in previous tutorials, if you have an evil party member, you can't have a paladin. So if we have created, right, if there is an evil, if we've created an evil party member, I covered this in another tutorial when we were doing alignments. If the CC1 evil switch is on, because we turned it on way back with alignments, then if that switch is on, we're going to turn on the switch evil party member is on. So we're going to use that. We use that. We actually saw this already. This is where it gets turned on. So when we're doing our class selections, we won't even get a choice of paladin if this switch is on. So this is where that switch gets turned on when we're keeping characters. So then make the portrait selectable so the player can view the character, because we have common events for if we want to view a character after we created them. So we're going to use the button picture to for the portrait, which was image 94, and the common event is 403, which is view CC1. Okay, so we're going to make that portrait that we just finished selectable so that we can view them if we want to. That is the first section for if it's CC1 box. You repeat the exact same thing for if CC2 box is on. So change your switch. This is the same. It's a different picture because the green colored border was in a different location, and it's a, you have to have a different picture. Then this is going to be similar, but it's going to be a different picture. This is going to be a different variable, and then you have to have it in a different location because it can't be overlapping with the other portrait box. It's still calling the name input, so that common event's the same. Here's a switch that has to be updated. Here's a switch that has to be updated. This is a switch that has to be updated because it's CC2 evil, but then evil party member switch, that stays the same. And then this has to be different because it's a different picture and it's a different common event, view CC2. And then that's all for if it's CC box 2. So you do the same changes for CC box 3, make all those same changes. Do the same thing if it's CC box 4, so make all those same changes. Okay? And then once you get down to there, those are the 4 CC boxes. Then we have conditional branch to check if character is a paladin. So if yes, then turn paladin in party switch on, because again, we've already seen this switch. If this switch is on, then when you're selecting alignments, you can't have evil alignments. Okay, so we already saw this switch, and this is where it gets turned on when you're keeping a character that you created. If Paladin is on, if that switch is on, then turn on the switch Paladin and Party. Turn that switch on. So then turn Fighter type and Thief type class switches off, because remember, way back to the beginning, we were turning on a bunch of switches based on the characters the character that we were creating. So turn off the switch for fighter type class, turn off the switch for thief type class if they were on, then turn off all switches for races, classes, alignments, and strength bonus. Because essentially once we're done, if we keep a character and we haven't made all of our characters, we need to start all over again. So we're turning off all of our switches. Okay? Turn all CC Evil switches off. So again, we're turning all of the CC Evil switches off now because we don't need them. Right? We've already, if the character was evil, we already turned on the switch for evil party member, right? So turn off all these switches. Then, we're almost to the end of this. Script to check if all switches are on to show that all 4 characters have been created. If yes, then value of variable for process step is updated to 5. Else it is updated to 1. So 5 means we're all done. Okay? 1 means essentially we're not. So this script is a script that allows you to check if multiple switches are on. So you just have to be very careful with recreating this. Again, this is not a tutorial to show you exactly how to do it. And is basically is and, right? It means if this switch is on, and if this switch is on, and this switch is on, and this switch is on. True means is on, and then these are our switch numbers. Okay, so here's the script. Be very careful with your parentheses. Then what it's going to do, if all 4 of these are on, then it's going to set the value of the variable 745 to 5. Otherwise, it's going to set the value of variable 745 to 1. So once we have done this check, are all the switches on to show that all the characters have been completed? So these are CC1 complete, CC2 complete, CC3 complete, CC4 complete. So then it's going to check. If step is 1, then the party is not complete. So if CC step number equals 1, the party is not complete. So we have to get ready to be able to make another character. So we're going to erase all the pictures 10 through 34. So we're going to erase all the pictures that are over on the right-hand side of the screen, just cleaning it up to make sure we're ready to select a new character. We're going to show instructions to the player, which is basically telling them to select the character you wish to create, or now it's going to say that you want to view, because now we've created a character, we kept one, we've created one, we can view them now. Conditional branch check to make all boxes selectable. So again, so new characters can be created or existing characters can be viewed. So way back when, in one of the earlier tutorials, when we first clicked on a portrait box, a blank portrait box to make a character, the other 3 were no longer selectable. So now we got to make them all selectable. So if CC1 complete is off, so meaning CC1 portrait box is not done, we have not made a character, then we're going to show the yellow border, the empty portrait box with the yellow border, and make it clickable. Else, meaning that CC1 complete is on, then we're going to show the appropriate portrait that we selected in that location and make it clickable, because we want to make it clickable so we can view it, right? View CC1. Then we're going to do the same check for all of them. If CC2 complete is off, then show the yellow border, the blank box with the yellow border, make it clickable. Else, show the portrait that was selected, right, in the appropriate spot and make it clickable. If CC3 complete is off, show the empty border with the empty space with a yellow border and make it clickable. Otherwise, show the appropriate portrait that we selected and make it clickable. And then 4 is the same way. If CC4 complete is off, show the yellow border, make it clickable. Else, show the appropriate portrait that we selected and make it clickable. So now all of those things have made all of the portrait box on the left-hand side of the screen, whether they have a portrait or they're empty, makes them all clickable again. Okay? Now, here's an else branch. Well, what did that else branch apply to? The else branch applied way up here to if CC step number equals 1, right? Here's our else. So it's part of that if CC step number is 1. It's not. If it's a 5, because all these are on, it's a 5. Then down here, the party is complete. So we're still going to erase the pictures 10 through 34. We're going to update the instructions to the player and displays the play button. So now we have new text. Select the character you wish to view, or it'll say click the play button to start the game. So you show that text, add the play button. So actually add play to the blank button, because there was a button over on the left-hand side of the screen that was blank. That was the play button. So we're going to basically show it again, add play as the text, and then we're going to make that clickable. Okay. So first thing, actually, it's already. Wait a second. So add play to button. Oh no! Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I didn't make this clickable because I was just recreating the character generation process, and this isn't a real game, so there's nothing to play, right? So you don't activate the play button because I didn't activate the play button because there's nothing to do when beyond this. Okay, so basically just add play to the play button. Make all portraits selectable so they can be viewed. So this is just adding those button picture plugin command to all of the portraits so that they can be selected, right? They can be selected. Yeah, and that's it. Okay, that's it. So that event is there. So that's what happens when you click the keep button and you finish a character. And what it has to do is it has to say, are there still characters I need to create? And if so, let's get ready to do that. But also make it where you can view the characters you have already created before you start the game. I mean, before you make a new character. Or if all the characters have been created, then it's going to give you the choice of either starting to play or viewing any of the characters that you created, because then you might want to delete one. And if you delete one, right, which we haven't covered yet, if you delete a character, that makes it where, oh, your party isn't full anymore, right? And it has to accommodate if you deleted a paladin, or it has to accommodate if you deleted an evil character, right? Because then when you create a new character, you have to make sure you're ready to do it without any limitations that aren't appropriate. So that's it for this tutorial. I will double check if I did the name input. I think I did, but I'll double check. If I didn't, then when I come back, I will do the name input. I will do the view characters, right? Because we have the option to view any of the characters we created. And then the last two choices, which are delete a character or just close the option of view character and say, no, I'm good. And that will be it. So basically one more tutorial, tutorial 10, and this whole thing will be done. All right, folks, if you're still with me, I greatly appreciate it. I hope this is helpful. I hope it isn't really confusing. I hope you're finding things of interest from this. Even if it's just something like, hey, I didn't know I could do that. That's something that I might want to try. Or if you just really like the idea of this type of recreation, and it gives you some of the skills or some of the ways that you could do this, and it gets you thinking, and it gets you experimenting, and it gets you modifying things so that you can do the things the exact way you want them to. Okay? Again, not saying this is the best way to do it. Just saying this is how I did it and it works, right? I haven't found any more mistakes. So again, thank you very much, folks. I really hope this is helpful. I hope you're having a great new year. We're almost in the middle. Actually, we're in the middle of January already, but hopefully things are going great for you. Hope you're having a great time learning RPG Maker. And happy gaming, happy game developing. If these things are helpful to you, please consider liking, subscribing, getting notifications, leaving comments. I really like comments and know that if these are of value to anyone. And also, as I've started to mention, if you do want to catch up with me, I have the same username on rpgmakerweb.com on the forums. You can join for free, and you can private message me if you want to reach out for something, or if you just want to say hi or something like that. It's a really great place, and it's very helpful. The forums over there are tremendously helpful. So anyway, again, thank you very much, folks, and I wish you the best of luck on your projects. And until I can get the last tutorial up and then move on to something else, I really wish you the best, and I will talk to everybody later. Okay, have a great afternoon, and bye.